Supreme Commander Lan stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and watched the stars slide past. His four eyes blinked slowly as he studied the holographic map floating before him. A small blue dot pulsed at the edge of the display. Earth, the home of the species called humans. The Dominion had been conquering worlds for 3,000 years. They were tall creatures, standing nearly 3 meters high, with hard shells covering their bodies like natural armor. Their claws could cut through metal. Their teeth could crush bone. They feared nothing in the galaxy because nothing in the galaxy could stand against them. Lan had personally led the conquest of 17 star systems. He had watched civilizations fall. He had accepted the surrender of kings and emperors. His name was spoken with terror across 100 worlds. And now, looking at this tiny blue planet, he felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt excited. His tactical officer, a younger named X, approached with a data tablet in his clawed hands. His mandibles clicked nervously as he bowed his head in respect. "Supreme Commander, I have completed the analysis of the human," X said. "The results are unusual." Lan turned his massive head. "Unusual how?" "They have almost nothing, Commander. No orbital defense platforms, no planetary shield generators, no weapon satellites. Their largest warship is smaller than our smallest patrol vessel. Their weapons technology is at least 200 years behind ours." Lan blinked all four eyes at once. "That cannot be correct. Run the analysis again." "I have run it 7 times, Commander. The results are the same each time. Earth is essentially defenseless. They cannot even travel faster than light without using jump gates they purchased from the Merchant Guild. They are primitive." The Supreme Commander let out a long, rumbling laugh. The sound echoed across the observation deck, causing the junior officers to look up from their stations. They had never heard their commander laugh like this. "Defenseless," Lan repeated, tasting the word. "A defenseless world, rich with resources, populated by soft creatures with no claws and no armor. This will be the easiest conquest in Dominion history." He walked to the communications station and pressed a button. His voice would now reach every ship in his fleet: 1,000 dreadnoughts, 5,000 support vessels, 2 million soldiers, the greatest invasion force they had ever assembled. "Warriors of the Dominion," he announced, "we have found our next target, a world called Earth. Their defenses are weak, their technology is primitive, their people are soft. We will take their planet within a single cycle. Prepare for conquest." The fleet erupted in celebration. Soldiers roared their war cries. Weapons officers began loading ammunition. Engineers started checking engines. Everyone was excited for an easy victory. But Lan noticed something strange when he filed his official conquest declaration with the Galactic Council. The Council was a group of representatives from all known civilizations. They kept records of wars and treaties and territorial claims. It was standard procedure to inform them before any major invasion. The response came within hours. 17 species immediately their ambassadors from Prime. 17, all at once, without explanation. Lan stared at the report, his mandibles clicking in confusion. He had filed hundreds of conquest declarations over his career. Sometimes a few species objected. Sometimes there were diplomatic complaints, but he had never seen anything like this. It was as if these civilizations were trying to distance themselves from the completely. Then came the message from the were ancient. They had existed as a civilization for over 50,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched younger species make terrible mistakes, and they almost never spoke to anyone anymore. They had retreated to their home system centuries ago and refused all contact with the outside galaxy. But now they sent a message, a single transmission, 4 words. "We will remember you." Lan read the message a dozen times. He did not understand it. Was it a threat, a warning, a farewell? They were powerful once. Perhaps they still had weapons that could threaten the Dominion, but their message made no sense. He decided to ignore it. They were old and strange. Their opinions did not matter. What did matter was the conquest of Earth. Lan called his senior officers to the war room and began planning the invasion. They would enter the human system with overwhelming force. They would demand immediate surrender. If the humans refused, they would destroy their military installations and their major cities. Then they would land troops and begin the occupation. It was a simple plan. It had worked on dozens of worlds before. There was no reason to think it would not work again. "What do we know about these humans?" one of his generals asked. "How will they fight?" X pulled up the intelligence files. "They are small creatures. Average height is less than 2 meters. They have no natural weapons. No claws, no armor, no venom. They are covered in soft skin that tears easily. They require constant temperature regulation. They need to sleep for many hours each day. They are fragile." The generals laughed. Fragile prey was the best kind of prey. "Their military forces are minimal," X continued. "They seem to spend most of their resources on internal conflicts with each other. They have no unified planetary government. They are divided into hundreds of separate nations. Many of them are at war with each other even now." "Excellent," Lan said. "A divided enemy is a weak enemy. They will not be able to organize a defense before we crush them." He gave the order to move out. The fleet entered hyperspace, 1,000 dreadnoughts moving as one toward their helpless target. The journey would take several cycles, plenty of time to finalize the invasion plans. As the stars blurred around his flagship, Lan allowed himself to feel proud. He had built a legendary career on conquest. This would be another victory to add to his record. Easy, simple, boring even. He had no idea that he was about to learn why they had broken their 300 years of silence. He had no idea why 17 species had fled from any association with the. He had no idea what waited for him in that quiet little star system at the edge of the Orion Arm. Earth looked defenseless, and that was exactly what made it so dangerous. But Lan would not understand this until it was almost too late. The fleet had been traveling through hyperspace for 2 cycles when the first message arrived. It came on an old frequency, one that the Dominion had not used in decades. Someone wanted to make very sure that Lan received it. The sender was the Collective. Lan remembered they had once ruled an empire of 40 worlds. Their ships had been fast and deadly. Their warriors had been fierce. They were considered one of the major powers of the galaxy, second only to themselves. But that was a long time ago. Something had happened to their empire had collapsed. Their worlds had gone dark. No one knew exactly what had destroyed them. Some said it was a plague. Others said it was civil war. They themselves never explained. Now a face appeared on Lan's screen. The creature looked old and tired. Its scales had lost their color. Its eyes were dull. It sat in a small room on what looked like a refugee ship. Behind it, Lan could see others huddled together in the darkness. "Supreme Commander of the said, I am Elder OK. I was once a fleet admiral. I commanded 10,000 warships. I thought there was nothing in the galaxy that could defeat us." Lan watched with growing impatience. He did not have time for the ramblings of a fallen civilization. "I am sending this message to beg you," the elder continued. "Turn back. Do not go to Earth. Do not attack the humans. I know you think they are weak. I know you think they are defenseless. We thought the same thing. We were wrong." The old leaned closer to the camera. His voice dropped to a whisper. "We attacked Earth 60 years ago. We had 10,000 ships. We destroyed 3 of their cities. We killed 8 million of them. We thought we had won." He paused and closed his eyes. "We were wrong. The humans did something we never expected. They did not surrender. They did not negotiate. They came after us. They found all 40 of our colony worlds, and they destroyed everything." Lan made a dismissive sound. You expect me to believe that primitives destroyed your empire. With what weapons? They can barely travel between stars. They did not need advanced weapons, the elder replied. They only needed time and patience, and a hatred that burned brighter than any star. You do not understand what humans are. They are not like us. They do not think like us. When you hurt them, they do not stop fighting until you are completely destroyed. Not defeated, destroyed, forever. The transmission ended. Lan deleted it without a second thought. They had obviously lost their minds along with their empire. Their warnings were meaningless. But more messages came. The second was from the crystalline hegemony. Their ambassador was a being made of living crystal, beautiful and ancient. She spoke in a voice like wind chimes. We attacked Earth 112 years ago. We sought their water and their minerals. We had the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, beams of focused light that could cut through anything. We burned their cities from orbit. We laughed at their attempts to fight back. The crystal being paused. A crack appeared in her surface, running from her shoulder to her chest, old damage that had never healed. They did not give up. They built new ships, ugly ships, slow ships, ships that should never have worked, but they came for us anyway. They found ways to destroy our crystal forms. They learned our weaknesses. They hunted us for 30 years. When they finally stopped, there were only a few thousand of us left. We had been millions. She touched the crack in her body. I received this wound fighting a single human soldier. He had lost his weapon. He had lost his armor. He was bleeding from a dozen injuries, but he would not stop. He hit me with his bare hands until I shattered. His hands broke. His bones came through his skin, and still he kept hitting. That is what humans are. That is what you are going to face. Lan deleted this message too. The third warning came from the Empire. The fourth came from the Swarm. The fifth came from a species called the who had been reduced to a single space station orbiting a dead world. Each story was the same. They had attacked Earth. They had possessed overwhelming force. They had been utterly destroyed. Interesting, Lan admitted to his officers. The humans have apparently paid many species to spread fear about them. It is a clever strategy. Make your enemies afraid before battle. It almost worked on lesser civilizations. His officers agreed. They were not afraid of anyone. The final message arrived just as the fleet was preparing to exit hyperspace. It came from the Again. This time, it was not just 4 words. An ancient being appeared on the screen. Its body was hidden in shadows. Only its eyes were visible, glowing with a soft golden light. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Young conqueror, it said, I have lived for 12,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species destroy themselves and each other, but I have never seen anything like humanity. Lan tried to respond, but his voice would not work. The elder seemed to be looking directly at him, through the screen, into his mind. You see a defenseless world and think it is weakness. You are wrong. Humans do not build defenses because they do not think about defense. They only think about attack, about revenge, about making their enemies regret ever being born. They are not prey, young conqueror. They are predators, the most dangerous predators the galaxy has ever seen. The elder paused. They do not have claws or armor or venom. They have something much worse. They have patience that lasts for generations, memory that never fades, and a capacity for violence that makes even the look gentle. I am telling you this because I remember what your species was like before you became conquerors. You were good once. I do not want to watch you be destroyed. The transmission ended. Lan sat in silence for a long moment. Then he laughed and gave the order to proceed. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 1,000 dreadnoughts, 5,000 support vessels, 2 million soldiers, the greatest invasion force in galactic history. And waiting for them was a single, unarmed human shuttle. The human shuttle was tiny. It was smaller than an escape pod. It had no weapons. It had no shields. It drifted alone in the vast darkness of space, surrounded by 1,000 dreadnoughts that could have destroyed it with a single shot. Land stared at the shuttle on his display screen. He could not understand what he was seeing. Where were the human warships? Where were their defense forces? Where was the panic and the fear that every conquered species showed when facing the fleet? "They are hailing us, Commander," his communications officer reported. "They are requesting permission to come aboard." "One shuttle?" Lan asked. "They are sending one shuttle to face our entire fleet." "Yes, Commander. They say they want to discuss terms." Lan laughed, but it sounded hollow even to his own ears. Something was wrong here. Something he could not identify. He had conquered 17 star systems. He had faced enemies with massive armies and powerful weapons. But he had never faced an enemy who responded to invasion with a single unarmed shuttle. "Let them come," he decided. "I want to see these humans for myself." The shuttle docked with the Eternal Conquest. Security teams lined the corridor. Heavy weapons were pointed at the airlock. 200 soldiers stood ready to kill anything that came through. The door opened. A single human walked out. She was small, barely tall enough to reach Lan's chest. She had no claws, no armor, no visible weapons. Her skin was soft and brown. Her hair was black and tied behind her head. She wore simple clothes in dark colors, and she was smiling. "Good morning," she said in perfect. "I am Ambassador Sarah. Welcome to the Sol system. Shall we find somewhere comfortable to talk?" Lan towered over her. His claws could have cut her in half with a single stroke. His soldiers could have killed her in an instant. But she showed no fear, none at all. She looked up at him the way someone might look at an interesting animal in a zoo. "You are either very brave or very stupid," Lan said. "Neither," Ambassador replied. "I am simply human. Now I understand you are here to conquer our planet. That is perfectly fine. Many species have tried before, but I thought you might like to understand what happened to them first. It might help you make a more informed decision." She walked past the soldiers without waiting for permission. Her footsteps echoed in the silent corridor. No one tried to stop her. The warriors looked at each other in confusion. This was not how conquered species were supposed to behave. Lan followed her. He had to know what this creature was thinking. He had to understand why she was not afraid. They reached the war room. Ambassador sat in a chair designed for a twice her size. She looked comfortable anyway. She pulled a small device from her pocket and placed it on the table. "You have been receiving messages from other species," she said. "Warnings about humanity. I assume you ignored them all." "Of course, they were obvious propaganda." "Ah," the ambassador nodded. "That is what the thought too, and the crystalline hegemony, and the empire, and the swarm, and the 17 other species who attacked Earth over the past 200 years." She pressed a button on her device. A holographic display appeared above the table. It showed a star map with Earth at the center. Around it, in a wide circle, were the locations of 20 different civilizations. Each one was marked with a red symbol. "Every species you see here attacked our," Ambassador explained. "Every single one of them had superior technology, superior numbers, superior weapons. Some of them killed millions of our people before we could respond." She pressed another button. The display changed to show recordings: ships in battle, cities burning, armies fighting. "This is the invasion. 62 years ago, they destroyed 3 of our cities: Chicago, Mumbai, Lagos. 8 million human beings died in a single day." Lan watched the recording. He saw human cities turn to ash. He saw human bodies scattered in the streets. He saw panic and terror and death. It was exactly what he expected to see. Exactly what always happened when the strong attacked the weak. "You lost," he said. "We lost that day," Ambassador agreed, "but we did not surrender." The display changed again. Now it showed something different: human ships leaving Earth. Not elegant vessels like the used, ugly things, crude things, ships that looked like they had been built in a hurry by people who did not care about beauty, only about revenge. We spent 11 months building a fleet. We used every resource we had. We emptied our oceans of metal. We worked our factories day and night. And then we went after the impossible, Land said. You did not have faster-than-light technology. No, we bought jump gate coordinates from a trader species. It cost us half our planet's gold reserves. We did not care. We only wanted to find The display showed human ships arriving at a colony world. The battle was short and brutal. Human vessels rammed warships. Human soldiers fought with weapons that should not have been able to hurt advanced alien armor. But somehow they did. Somehow they won. We took that colony in 3 days. Then we moved to the next one, and the next. We did not stop for 40 years. Ambassador looked directly at Lan. Her smile never wavered, but her eyes were cold. They had 40 worlds. When we finished, they had none. Their civilization is gone. Their people are scattered refugees. Their children grow up in camps on dead moons, forbidden from ever developing space travel again. They attacked us once. We made sure they could never attack anyone again. She turned off the display. That is what humans do, Supreme Commander. We do not defend, we do not negotiate, we do not forgive. When someone hurts us, we hurt them back. Harder, forever. Your fleet is powerful, your soldiers are strong. You could probably destroy our cities and kill billions of our people, but you could not kill all of us. And those who survived would come for you. They would find your colonies. They would hunt your children and your children's children until there was nothing left of the but memories and ruins. She stood up and straightened her clothes. So, shall we discuss terms, or would you like to see more recordings first? Lan wanted to dismiss everything the human ambassador had said. He wanted to call her a liar. He wanted to order his soldiers to kill her and proceed with the invasion. But something stopped him. Something in her eyes. Something in the way she spoke. She was not afraid, and creatures who were about to die were always afraid. "Show me more," he said. Ambassador nodded and activated her device again. The holographic display filled the war room with images and sounds. Lan watched in growing horror as the truth of humanity was revealed. The first recording showed human soldiers fighting on a colony world. The atmosphere was toxic to humans. They should have died within minutes, but they wore crude suits made of metal and plastic. The suits leaked. The soldiers were slowly being poisoned, but they kept fighting. They crawled through the toxic mud. They climbed over the bodies of their fallen comrades. They reached the defensive positions and killed everyone inside. That squad lost 20 soldiers to the atmosphere, Ambassador explained. They knew they were dying. They attacked anyway. The survivors reported that their last thoughts were of their families who had died on Earth. They wanted them to understand what it felt like to lose everything. The next recording showed humans fighting on a high-gravity world. The planet's gravity was 3 times stronger than Earth's. Human bones broke under the strain. Their hearts struggled to pump blood. Every step was agony, but they kept coming. They dragged themselves forward on broken legs. They fired their weapons with arms that could barely lift them. Humans evolved on a heavy world by galactic standards, the ambassador said. Our bodies are already built to handle stress that would kill most species. When we push ourselves beyond our limits, we can survive things that should be impossible. It hurts. It causes permanent damage. But we do it anyway because winning matters more than survival. Lan watched a human soldier with both legs broken pulling himself toward a position. The soldier was leaving a trail of blood behind him. His face was twisted in pain, but his hands still held his weapon, and his eyes still burned with hatred. "Why?" Lan asked. "Why would anyone keep fighting like that?" "Because we cannot stop," Ambassador replied. "It is not bravery, it is not courage, it is something in our blood, something in our brains. When someone hurts us, we do not think about survival. We think about revenge. We think about making them pay. We think about hurting them so badly that no one will ever hurt us again. She showed more recordings. Humans fighting in radiation zones that should have killed them in seconds. Humans continuing to fight after losing arms, legs, eyes. Humans using their own bodies as weapons when they ran out of everything else. One recording showed a human female fighting a crystalline soldier. The crystal being was twice her size. Its body was harder than steel. The human's weapons had no effect, so she attacked with her hands. She hit the crystal again and again. Her bones broke. Her skin tore. Blood sprayed across the crystal's surface. But she kept hitting until the crystal cracked and shattered and fell. That soldier survived, Ambassador said. Her hands were destroyed. She spent 3 years learning to use mechanical replacements. Then she went back to the front lines and fought for another 20 years. Lan felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Fear. Real fear. Not of the human weapons, not of their ships, but of the creatures themselves. Of the thing that lived inside them. The thing that made them unable to stop. "You called us persistence predators," he said quietly. "I do not understand that term. On our we evolved as hunters, but we were not the fastest animals, we were not the strongest. We did not have claws or fangs or venom. What we had was endurance. We would chase our prey for hours, days, weeks. Our bodies could keep moving when everything else collapsed from exhaustion. We would follow an animal until it literally could not run anymore, until its heart gave out, until it died of stress and fear." Ambassador stood up and walked toward Lan. She was so small compared to him, so fragile, but she moved with complete confidence. "That is what we are, persistence predators. We do not need to be faster or stronger than our enemies. We only need to keep coming, keep chasing, keep hunting. No matter how long it takes, no matter how much it costs us, we never stop." She reached out and touched Lan's armored chest. Her soft fingers rested on his hard shell. "Your ships are powerful, your soldiers are fierce, but can you fight for 40 years without rest? Can your children fight after you are dead? Can their children, because ours can, ours will, attack and we will hunt your species until the stars burn out." Lan looked at her hand. He could have killed her so easily. One swipe of his claw, one bite of his jaws, but he knew now that killing her would change nothing. There were billions more like her, and every single one of them carried that same fire inside. "The other species," he said, "the ones who attacked you, what happened to them?" "They are refugees. The crystalline hegemony has been reduced to a few thousand individuals. The empire collapsed completely. There is a radioactive ruin. The swarm exists only in isolated pockets on moons and asteroids. We did not just defeat them, Supreme Commander. We ended them as civilizations. We made sure they could never threaten us again." "That is genocide." "No, genocide is what they tried to do to us. What we did was survival. We removed threats. Permanently. We will do the same to you if you attack. It is not a threat. It is not a warning. It is simply what we are." Ambassador walked back to her chair and sat down. She pulled out a small tablet and began reading something. She looked bored, as if she was waiting for a bus, as if 1,000 warships were not surrounding her. "I will give you time to think about this," she said. "Talk to your officers, talk to your council, decide what you want to do. I will be here when you are ready to discuss terms." She did not look up again. Lan left the war room. His steps were heavy. His mind was spinning. For the first time in his long career, he did not know what to do. He had come here to conquer a defenseless world, but now he understood the terrible truth. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was a trap, and every species that had fallen into that trap had been destroyed. The question was, would they be smart enough to walk away? Lan called a meeting of his senior officers. They gathered in the command center of the Eternal Conquest, 100 of the most experienced warriors in the Dominion. They had conquered worlds together. They had crushed rebellions and destroyed enemy fleets. They had never known defeat. But now they looked at their supreme commander with confusion in their eyes. He had been in the war room with the human ambassador for hours. He had not given any orders. He had not launched the attack. Something was wrong. "I have called you here to make a decision," Land said. "The most important decision of our lives." He activated the holographic display. He showed them everything Ambassador had shown him. The recordings of human soldiers fighting in impossible conditions, the destruction of the crystalline hegemony, the terrible truth about what humanity really was. The officers watched in silence. Some of them laughed at first. They thought it was a joke, but as the recordings continued, the laughter stopped. Fear began to spread through the room like a cold wind. "This is impossible," General A said. "These soft creatures cannot have destroyed so many civilizations. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are crude. We would crush them in a direct battle." "Yes," Lan agreed. "We would win the first battle, probably the second, maybe the third, but what about the 100th battle, the 1000th? The humans do not fight like other species. They do not surrender when they are losing. They do not negotiate when they are weak. They keep fighting until one side is completely destroyed, and they have proven that they can keep fighting for decades, for generations." He pointed to the star map showing Earth at the center. "Every species that attacked them thought the same thing we are thinking now. They thought the humans were easy prey. They thought superior technology would guarantee victory. They were wrong. Their civilizations no longer exist." Admiral A stepped forward. She was the oldest officer in the room, with scars covering her shell from 100 battles. "What are you suggesting, Commander? That we run away? That the mighty fleet turn and flee from a species that has not even fired a shot at us?" "I am suggesting that we be smarter than the," Lan replied. "I am suggesting that we learn from the mistakes of others. We could attack Earth tomorrow. We could destroy their cities and kill billions of their people. And then we would spend the rest of our existence fighting a war we could never truly win. Is that what we want? To die slowly, watching our empire crumble, hunted across the galaxy by creatures who will never stop coming?" The room fell silent. "There is another option," Lan continued. "The humans have offered us terms. They are not asking us to surrender. They are not demanding tribute. They simply want us to leave them alone. Peace, trade, normal relations between civilizations." "And if we refuse?" Lan pulled up one more file. It was the gift Ambassador had given him before he left the war room. A data packet containing detailed information about 17 colony worlds, defense systems, population centers, orbital platforms, everything the humans would need to destroy them. "She gave me this freely," he said. "She wanted us to know that they already understand how to hurt us. They have studied our empire. They know our weaknesses. They are not threatening us. They are simply showing us what will happen if we make the wrong choice." General A stared at the data. "How did they get this information? Our security systems should have detected any spy probes." "They did not use spy probes. They used trade ships, diplomatic contacts, tourist vessels. They have been gathering information about us for years, just in case we ever became a threat. They were prepared for this invasion before we even knew Earth existed." The truth settled over the officers like a heavy weight. The humans were not a primitive species waiting to be conquered. They were a patient predator, watching and waiting, ready to strike at any enemy who threatened them. They had walked into their territory thinking they were hunters. Now they understood that they were the prey. Admiral A spoke again, her voice quieter now. "What do you recommend, Commander?" Lan took a long breath. This was the hardest thing he had ever done, admitting defeat without ever fighting, walking away from an enemy he could have destroyed. It went against everything they believed. But it was the only choice that made sense. "We leave," he said. "We accept the human terms. We sign a non-aggression pact. We establish trade relations. And we never ever give them a reason to come after us." Some officers protested. They called it cowardice. They called it a betrayal of honor, but most of them understood. They had seen the recordings. They knew what would happen if they attacked Earth. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The fleet would withdraw. Lan returned to the war room to inform Ambassador. She was still sitting in the same chair, reading her tablet, looking bored. When he told her the decision, she smiled. "A wise choice, Supreme Commander. I knew your species was intelligent. That is why I volunteered for this mission. I believed you would understand." "You were not afraid," Lan said, "even for a moment. You came aboard this ship alone, surrounded by enemies, and you were never afraid. Why?" Ambassador stood up and looked at him. Her eyes were warm now, friendly. "I was not alone, Commander. There are 8 billion humans on Earth. Every single one of them was watching this conversation. Every single one of them was ready to fight if you made the wrong choice. I knew that even if you killed me, it would not matter. My people would come for you. They would never stop. They would hunt you until the end of time." She offered her hand, a human gesture of friendship. "But now that does not have to happen. We can be friends instead, partners. They are strong. The humans are determined. Together we could accomplish great things." Lan looked at her small, soft hand. He thought about everything he had learned today, about the persistent predators who had conquered the deadliest species in the galaxy without building a single orbital defense platform. He took her hand very carefully, afraid of crushing it. "Partners," he agreed. The fleet departed Earth space 3 cycles later. They had not fired a single shot. They had not conquered a single world, but they had survived. And that, Lan realized, was the true victory. Back on Prime, he filed his report. He told the Council everything. He showed them the recordings. He explained why he had made the decision to withdraw. Some called him a coward. Some demanded his execution. But the members of the Council understood. They had seen empires fall. They knew that true strength was not just about weapons and soldiers. Sometimes true strength was knowing when not to fight. The Dominion signed a formal peace treaty with Earth. Trade routes were established. Cultural exchanges began. The two species, so different in every way, began to build a relationship based on mutual respect. Ambassador sent Lan a gift basket a few months later. It contained strange human foods called chocolate and coffee. There was also a handwritten note. "Thank you for choosing peace. I hope this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Looking forward to working with you." Lan kept the note on his desk for the rest of his career. It reminded him of the lesson he had learned at Earth. A lesson that every species in the galaxy eventually learned, one way or another. Humans looked weak. They looked soft and slow and fragile. They had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. Their technology was primitive. Their ships were ugly. Their defenses were almost non-existent. But that was because they did not need defenses. Humans were not prey waiting to be conquered. They were predators who had simply chosen, for now, to be polite. And the galaxy was much safer when humans stayed polite. Much, much safer.